Hey everybody, Jam Creates here. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Well, not really. I mean, it's still a comic book review, but it is, this time we are going to review Jawbreakers Book 1 Remastered by Richard C. Meyer and Simon Bennett, also known as Final Fight Guy. Um, I'm not really sure why he has that name, but hey, whatever. This is a weird one. It's interesting. This, of course, was part of the package that came with Jawbreakers-Lost Souls. This is the interesting thing about this one. Was I had read this already before the book shipped from the Indiegogo because your boy Zack had put it online. He put a PDF of the original online and just put it up there for anyone to read. And then what happened was I believe Simon Bennett went to him and started just remastering pages on his own. And Zack was like, dude, that's amazing. Keep doing it, and I'll pay you for it, and we'll make it part of the Indiegogo. We'll make it part of the book. So that's exactly what he did. So essentially, you kind of have to forgive a little bit. You have to take a little bit of this, like, with some forgiveness. Only insofar as, this was something that Richard had done years ago on his own. He wrote it, he drew it, and everything. He colored it, everything himself. And in fact, the original was kind of this weird, like, monochromatic look that apparently your boy Zack is very in love with, because he tried that a couple of times. But so you kind of have to give it a little take it with a little grain of salt. I almost look at this like, kind of, if you follow my channel, you've seen my Jam Comics Classics, which are comic books that I created when I was a kid. They're ones that I did as a kid, or as a teenager, or whatever, and I share them with you guys. I make videos about them. I put them out there. You can read them. They're on Tapas. They're on my website. I put PDFs of them out there, of most of them, and I make videos about them, and it's just fun to share something that I did as a kid. And this kind of reminds me of that. I mean, granted, he was older, and he wasn't a kid, and his art was, clearly it was better than my art when I was a kid. But, again, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like if I were to take one of my old books and go back into it and really, like, tweak it and take it apart and redo the whole thing, because there are parts of this that are almost completely redrawn, just all sorts of stuff that were not in the original. If you can seek out the original, I would, just to give it a look side by side. It'd be an interesting thing to do, to compare them. But I'm gonna just take it as is, and I'm gonna review it as is. Now, I know he tweaked some of the dialogue, and obviously the art was completely overhauled. It is still the original art. I mean, this is still the Hell Priest that he drew, but it's completely different looking than it looked in the original. And a lot of the backgrounds were changed. A lot of things were changed. So we go through, and it starts off, we're not quite sure exactly where they are. They're somewhere in Africa, and Hell Priest shows up and just starts, like, rambling about things, and these guys are like, we didn't do any of that stuff. What are you talking about? And he pretends like he got the wrong address, and then their boss is like, that could be anybody, stop him. And then he realizes who it is when they tell him it's a blind priest. He knows who it is. It's the Jawbreakers. And then, of course, they come in, they're pushing a tank all the way through so that it doesn't have a heat signature, and then boom, they blast the one guard tower. Here's the funny thing about this. I know a lot of people ripped into the original when it was out there, and I read the original, and it was okay, it was fine. But here's the funny thing, like, I look at this now, and the remastered one specifically, with all the work that Simon Bennett put into these pages. Tell me this isn't on par with everything that's coming out from even the big publishers. Like, Tell me this doesn't look just like something you might see, or even better than something you might see from Marvel or DC or IDW or any of the other smaller indie publishers for sure. Um, it's definitely kind of strange. So the guys are the Jawbreakers are on a rescue mission. There's all these girls being held captive, and they're fighting their way through, and they finally get there, and they get to the bad guy, and the bad guy's got like he's got a dead man's switch in his hand. If he drops it, then all the girls will explode. And he's like they explained to him, like, they're not there for the girls. Nobody wanted to pay for the girls, but they did manage to find someone to pay them to kill this guy, the warlord or whoever he is. So he shoots him even with the dead man's switch, and uses his powers. Silkworm uses his powers to protect the girls from the explosion. Knife Hand uses his powers to cut them free, and then bam, out come the ninjas coming after Knife Hand again. I really would like to see. I know he's doing a Devil Dog book being written by Chuck Dixon, and I'm looking forward to that a lot because I like Devil Dog a lot, actually. But I really would love to see a Knife Hand book that explains his ninja clan and who they are and how he got his powers and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's very Iron Fist, but I would definitely be interested in seeing that. And by the way, I just want to mention serious kudos to Simon Bennett for this panel right here. I'm not sure. Actually, I can't say with 100% certainty that he did this on purpose. But look at this picture, look at the background, and then do you remember what the cards that G.I. Joe action figures used to come on? The art that G.I. Joe, the old, 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figures, the cards that they would come on had that same background behind their character art. It's exactly like that. It's that explosion background. It's total G.I. Joe right there. And at first I didn't catch it because I was just reading the story, but then I went back and I looked at it and I'm like, oh my god, that would be Silkworm if he was a G.I. Joe. That would be his artwork. That would be on his figure card. So anyway, the story actually is really good. Like, I give it credit. It's a good action-adventure story. Again, like, one thing, people want to rip on your boy Zack for whatever reason just because they don't like him, but the dude can write an action-adventure story. He really can. And he fixed up the dialogue in this a little bit. He did some tweaking on the dialogue, and it's good. He writes pretty good dialogue. He writes some funny banter and back and forth. And he also manages to he figures out a way to come up with good action scenarios. Like, for example, they're escaping in a helicopter. The Jawbreakers are escaping in a helicopter, and with the girls. And one of the ninjas picks up a surface-to-air missile, fires, it hits the rotor on the helicopter but doesn't explode. But then they see the rotor goes flying. So it was no explosion, but now they're in a helicopter that has no rotor. So then Killswitch comes in and shoots off their back rotor so that they don't corkscrew. Which is what'll happen if the top rotors stop operating on a helicopter, and then opens up the doors for the back of the plane, so that the helicopter, with now no rotors at all, it's literally just flying through the air, can come screeching into they put the ramp down and it goes into the back of this cargo plane and screeches into the back. Into the, I guess you'd call it the hangar or whatever you would call it on a cargo plane. I'm not sure the exact terminology. That's a great action scene. That's a great, 80s, 90s action scene right there. And then the funny thing is we go through all that, and then we find out the real plot here is that all of the superheroes, because the Jawbreakers are all kind of street level heroes, so we find out that his daughter is actually a superhero, and all of these superheroes managed to eliminate crime. And after they eliminated crime, things got a little weird, and the superheroes started disappearing. and they think it's all because of this guy who was called Star Baby, but now he's calling himself God King, and he's making all the superheroes disappear. He's killing all the superheroes. And we don't realize actually at first that she is. I'm not really worried about spoilers on this one, by the way, just so you know. I should have given a heads up earlier, only because this has been out. You could have read this, months and months ago. So I'm not really concerned about spoilers here. So they go back and forth. They just trying to decide, like, she wants them to go help, and then they realize it's a suicide mission. And Silkworm doesn't want to go, but eventually, he eventually decides to go, but he wants to leave his daughter behind. He doesn't want her to come along. So the other thing is the difference between this and Lost Souls. It seems that, and it's not explicitly stated, but it certainly seems like Lost Souls takes place before this does. It seems like they're a bit older. They've been through more when they get to this point. So just keep that in mind as well. It seems like these come after Lost Souls. Lost Souls is kind of the Jawbreakers. It's their introduction to being in Africa, and in this, they are just already there. So they come back to the United States. They're going to get this guy, the God King, who has all these powers. And so they drop themselves in. It's a cool action scene. They drop them, cool little scene. They drop themselves in outside the coast. And then when they get there, all their weapons just disappear. They get turned into rose petals. And, it ends right there, with Silkworm saying, "Nothing's changed. This was always a suicide mission. It still is. No one said it would be easy to kill a god." And then to be continued. Honestly, it's a fun story. It's a good story. I know a lot of people are going to rip on it because the art is not the greatest art I've ever seen. And it's not, but it's serviceable. It tells the story. It's definitely better with the retouching that was done to it. The art definitely looks better after Simon Bennett's work on all of it, for sure. But it's actually a fun story, and honestly, as part of the package, and that's the other thing, you have to, I'm reviewing it separately, but it is part of an overall package of Jawbreakers-Lost Souls, Jawbreakers Book 1, and Jawbreakers Book 2, all in one package. It's definitely fun. It's good to have. It's an extra. And it, honestly, it looks good. It tells a story. I like the flat shading on most of the coloring. It kind of gives it that old school kind of look. I think it's a good story. I do. I honestly like his stories. If you watch my channel, I did a video called 90s Syndicated Action Shows Rule, and I know for a fact that Zack is a big fan of those kind of shows too, because he said as much on some of his videos, and he acknowledged it on a live stream when I said something about it, and you can tell just from the way he writes, that's the kind of stuff he wants to write. He wants to write action-adventure stories that aren't trying to, change the world. They're just trying to tell good, fun action-adventure stories with characters that you like and that you want to see continue on, and it's cool. So, anyway, that is my review of Jawbreakers Book 1 Remastered. Honestly, I think it's a fun read. I think it tells a good story, actually. I think it actually is a good story. And I give a lot of credit to Simon Bennett for really doing a great job with the art and turning it into even better than it was before, because it left a little something to be desired before. And I give Zack credit for letting someone do that and make it so much better, and tweaking the dialogue and making it a better story and a better book. So again, I would give it a thumbs up. I say, you know what? It's a good action-adventure story. Check it out. Have fun with it. Because that's what it's all about. And I love the G.I. Joe art right there. I think that's amazing. So anyway, if you like this video, if you want to see more videos of comic reviews and things like that, and all the other stuff I like to do, give it a thumbs up. Share my videos if you could. That would be super helpful. I'm really excited. I'm closing in now on... I went past 50 and I'm closing in on 60 subscribers. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much to all my new subscribers. You guys rock. And everybody who keeps commenting on my videos, I love it. I love engaging with people, getting some back and forth. Mario, you know who you are. Um, but definitely, shout out to you guys. I love it. So click the thumbs up, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so you won't miss out on anything. And that's it. I will talk to you guys with another video. I am going to review book 2, so to be continued. There will be a book 2 review. And I will talk to you guys again soon. We can do it around the cool G.I. Joe panel. Peace out.